GalaxyCon. It's Engaging with Picard. I am your host, Josh Pritchett, organizer of the Northern Virginia Star Trek Meetup, and I'm joined today with my partner in crime,
King from One Punch Man and the Hero Association.
Yes.
Subbing in for Chris today.
Yes, you might notice that we are actually in the same room for once, and that's a very rare occurrence here. So, because we are here at GalaxyCon, we're going to keep this a little short today. So, let's dive right into it, King.
Glad to be guesting here. I love the episode. I thought that it was a great way to bring back spoilers. Geordi, it's a great way to bring back Data, and I thought it was heavy on the nostalgia.
Very heavy on the nostalgia. As a devout fan of the Klingons, I love the fact that we brought back the HMS Bounty, the Klingon bird of prey that Kirk and the gang stole in Star Trek 3 and then used in Star Trek 4 to get the whales. So a quick recap of what happened. After the events of the last episode, the Titan has been dropping distraction buoys to divert both Starfleet and the Shrike while they attempt to rendezvous with Worf and Raffi and get the lowdown on what's going on. Once they've joined up with Worf and Raffi, they begin to piece together what's happened with the changelings and trying to figure out what their intentions are, but they still don't know what the changelings managed to steal from Daystrom Station. Chris?
And so they go back to the scene of the crime, and unfortunately, they have to leave their away party there, which is Riker, Worf, and Raffi, who then discover that the AI is quite active, and they even see nostalgia number one, Professor Moriarty, and they're trapped in the station while Picard has to go find some medicinal help, which is he goes to Ethan Prime, despite Ensign LaForge saying he didn't think it was a good idea, and there's a reunion with Geordi, and Geordi is not too happy to actually see Picard, although he does give Beverly a nice hug, and he's fearful for his family, and he's basically telling Picard that he can't help them. Meanwhile, on the station, they find a lot of black ops things that were part of Section 31, including a very evil-looking tribble that scares the heck out of Worf.
And me.
True. And they finally solve the riddle of Moriarty, or I should say the whistling riddle, and they find out who the AI is, and the AI turns out to be Data. Josh?
Yeah, so they managed to get in, and Worf has figured out that Data is not only the AI running the security of Daystrom Station, he is also the manifest. He is everything. He is everything. And what we find out is, after the events of season 1, Alden Sung decided to recreate Data. Instead of trying to build an artificial body to extend his own life, he decides he's just going to recreate Data. But he also includes aspects of Data's personality, Lal's personality, who was Data's daughter that he constructed in season 3 of Next Generation, B4, who we saw in the last Star Trek film, and Lore and Sung himself. They're all kind of in there, and it's kind of a whole multi-personality thing that's going on in there. But what happens next is we cut back to the Fleet Museum. Jack and Seven are sitting at command, and they're looking at all the historic spaceships that are there, and we get to see the USS Defiant, the USS Seven explains that was her home. Then they come across the Klingon battlecruiser HMS Bounty, which is the unofficial name for this ship because it's the ship that Kirk and his crew stole from the Klingons in Star Trek 3 and used to get the whales in Star Trek 4. And they have figured out that the cloaking device still works on this ship. So, doing a bit of larceny with the two LaForge daughters, Seven and Jack managed to steal the cloaking device and try to install it on the Titan. At which point, Geordi decides that he no longer has a choice. He has to help Picard and his friends. So he goes in and he properly installs the cloaking device. They head back to Daystrom Station. Meanwhile, security has found out that Riker, Worf, and Rafi are on board. They're trying to find them. Unfortunately, they need to disconnect data, which is the only thing protecting them from the security team. So Riker decides to create a distraction while Worf and Rafi get data back to the Titan. Chris, you want to bring us home?
And so they are successful in getting data back to the Titan at the expense of Riker, who's captured. And the reason why they need to use the cloaking device is because all the ships are linked. So as soon as one ship gets close to another, it's recognized. So they have to come in, beam them out, and get out as soon as possible. And they reconnect the data amalgam, which is an amalgam of different personalities. And he does wake up. He recognizes people. And Picard is like, this is very disturbing because I saw Data die twice. And Geordi says, well, that was Data the android. This is Data, completely a new thing. And, the intent was for the personalities to mix with one another, but they haven't quite yet. And so he does reawake. They ask him what was stolen. And he keeps on saying, Jean-Luc Picard, Jean-Luc Picard. And Worf thinks he's glitched until he projects through his eyes something new the old Data couldn't do, what the changeling stole. And it's the body of Jean-Luc. And then the scene flashes to a captured Riker, who he thought he was captured by Starfleet, but we have changelings, folks. So he's actually captured by Vadic, and he's taken to the Shrike, and he says, I'm never going to give up my friend of 35 years. And Vadic says, well, you just need the proper incentive, and takes Dressel, and there's Deanna Troi and C.
Yes, and magnificent episode. Chris, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Dan Lim, who directed this episode and last week's episode, is now joining the ranks of Winrick Kolb, Jonathan Frakes, and Leonard Nimoy as one of my all-time favorite Star Trek directors. This was just amazing. I have zero complaints. Everything I thought about was really good. There is a tremendous amount of nostalgia at the Fleet Museum that, when you see all the older ships that we're so familiar with, the Voyager, the Defiant, the Enterprise A, the Bounty. I keep wanting to call it. I'm sorry, folks. I keep wanting to call it Botany Bay, but it's the Bounty. So, which is what the title of this episode was. I thought when they were saying the Bounty, it was like, the price on their head. But no, it's the ship, the Bounty. So, what a show. What an episode.
Well, I think Chris, who's not here today, would agree with me that it was a very good episode. And shout out to Jonathan Frakes, who's here with us here at GalaxyCon Richmond. And also shout out to Terry Matalas, who, as Jonathan Frakes said in his talk yesterday, he understands what Trek is about. And shout out to the Trek experts who later today will have Terry Matalas on their show here at GalaxyCon Richmond.
Yes, so if you are in the Central Virginia, Richmond area, try to come down, see if you can get a ticket. It is rather massively crowded. It is a huge convention down here. No lie, it's ginormous, and parking is a mess. I could just tell you that right now. So, in the meantime, there's one thing, and we kind of wanted to cut this episode short because we're running over there. So
we have to go to the con ourselves.
Yes. So I think there was a lot of really curious things in this cabinet of curiosities that is Daystrom Station. In addition to Picard's body, I think they also had the body of James T. Kirk.
It sure looked like that. They also had the Genesis torpedo.
Ooh, okay. And, of course, that rather scary genetically enhanced Tribble, which has multiple mouths. And
the bane of all Klingons.
Yeah, it already was the bane of us, but now they've made it something worse. And I'd like to find the scientist who created that Tribble, and I'd like to see him on a Wednesday.
Yep.
Yeah, and I thought it was really clever getting the cloaking device. But there is something I do want to mention. Alondra Geordie's other daughter says something about, Dad, what about Hangar 14? And they don't really go into this, but what's in Hangar 14? Do you think?
I do not know. Something experimental.
Something that she thought could really be of help. And I'm kind of out of the predictions because I'm running infinity on predictions because these guys have really this year have really upped the game. This is we're just going to forget about that there ever was a season 2 to this series. We're just going to say it was just this. This is going to be the season I showed to my kids. Yes, this was the whole Picard series right here. So I was very happy with it. And King, what did you? Real happy?
I was happy. The only thing I might point out is why didn't they just take the Defiant?
That's a really good question because if everyone will recall, the USS Defiant was equipped with a Romulan cloaking device that was on loan.
Although clearly Klingon technology is superior.
It is much superior. Klingon cloaking technology is far superior to anything the Romulans have created. So, so that's probably the most obvious reason. In which case, why don't you just take the bounty? Beam everybody onto the bounty. They wouldn't see that coming,
So I did like the moment in the episode where Picard and Geordi just look at each other and realize it's their kids who have done this.
Yes.
And each for a moment thinks, you did this, and then it suddenly hits them, oh no, it's our kids. So I think that's something probably every parent has gone through.
Oh yeah. The kids. It's all about the kids. And it also was interesting because the old Geordi wouldn't have hesitated for a moment to drop everything and help Jean-Luc and everybody, but this is an older Geordi, and it's kind of going along with the same theme we've had since the beginning. These characters are older now. They've changed. Some things about them have changed, but the most important things are still there, despite the fact that, we have all these responsibilities. And when it finally comes down to it, Geordi realizes, I do need to do this. There's no longer any choice because protecting my family means I have to break Starfleet regulations, and I can't be this tight-assed old man anymore. I've got to be the old Geordi again. And I think it really comes together when he sees Data and realizes, this is what everything's been going towards. So
I did like two things that the dynamic between Sydney and her dad when she reveals, well, the reason I crashed everything was so that we could work on putting it back together because I wasn't an engineer, but I wanted flying, so this is my way to bond with you. So I really like that. And I liked Shaw, who's just been a curmudgeon, how he totally geeks out with Geordi, and it's a complete 180 from how he treats Picard. And he's very deferential and very humble. And you just see in the Picard and Seven exchange that look, and when it looks like he's getting dressed down by Geordi because of the state of the ship, he has nothing to say. He's ashamed, and he says, it's just been a weird week. And then his face lights up when Geordi says, I'd love to geek out with you, but what you've been able to do about this ship. So that was another facet of the many facets of Captain Liam Shaw.
Liam, I get the feeling he liked being an engineer more than he did being a captain. I think he fixes ships better than he can fix people, because I think with being a captain, you
don't let them do anything. Keep on being an engineer.
Yeah, and given the fact that Geordi's still wearing engineer gold, even though he's Commodore, he clearly wanted to. Engineering is still what he loves doing the most.
If he's a Commodore, does that mean he can sing?
I believe LeVar Burton can sing. We next time we see him at a convention, we should ask him if he could give us a tune. No, we shouldn't. But we should ask him that, actually.
Jonathan Frakes actually said yesterday in his talk that Brent Spiner is a tenor. He can carry quite a tune.
Yeah, but we've known that for a while with Brett, because Brett is the man of about 1 million talents. And in this next episode, we're going to see what Brett does best, and that is play multiple characters at the same time. And, we saw him do it throughout Next Generation, and we saw him do it a little bit in the movies, but now we're going to see him play 4 or 5 characters at once again, which is really what he excels at. So these next 4 episodes are going to be just legendary. I
So-
can't wait to see them.
What I want to know, Josh, is that real Deanna or is that changing Deanna?
That is a good question. Because the way she spoke was like, "Oh, Will," I was like, kind of not sure. I'm assuming it is. I'm assuming it's going to be, but we don't. 14, but I'm going to keep that to myself because I've been wrong a lot of times recently. So I'm ready to stop being wrong, and I'm just going to go with it. Chris, where can everybody find you?
Thank you for asking, Josh. I mean, Chris told me to let all of you know that his tag on Instagram is Verde Cosplay, and images from this weekend's GalaxyCon in Richmond are already up, including Chris just happened to be featured on the Instagram of Chris Claremont, the legendary X-Men scribe.
Oh, now that is a big thing.
Huge.
Yes, huge. And as a matter of fact, a lot of people don't remember this, but Chris actually wrote a Star Trek graphic novel back in the early 90s, which featured Kirk, Core, and cast of thousands. So you can, of course, find me at Josh Pritchett Jr. on Facebook, at the Star Trek Meetup group on meetup.org, and my book, Bigfoot and Other Tales of the Supernatural, is still on sale at Amazon and Kindle.
And more importantly, if you're here at GalaxyCon Richmond, you can see us both in person. Come up and say hi.
Hi, come on. We love talking to our fans. So until next week, I am Josh Pritchett.
I am King, subbing for Chris. Peace and long life.
Live long and prosper, everybody. Goodbye.
Yay.
Hey.